Hello, my name is Tawana Brown, and I serve as the Assistant Director in Parent and Family Programs. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to our webinar Wednesday. This week, we'll be discussing life after UA, and we have Marion Denham, the Director in Pre-Health. And so I'll let her tell a little bit about herself and take it over from here.
Hello, my name is Mary Denham, and I'm the Director of Health Professions Advising in the College of Arts and Sciences. But our office serves every pre-health student on our campus with the exception of nursing because we already have a fantastic nursing school that does that. So if your student is pre-health, pre-med, pre-dental, pre-optometry, occupational therapy, we are the office that helps support them all the way from BAMA bound through graduation with little things and big things, which include building that wonderful application that's going to get them accepted into the professional school of their choice. I am very happy to be here and to talk to parents. It's one of the things that I really enjoy doing because you are the support in the background and in the foreground. You guys are everywhere, and we really appreciate sending your students to our university, but also um, the support that you provide for them so they can be great students. All right,
So we'll go ahead and get started with your presentation if you would like.
wonderful. So today I was charged to discuss with you briefly about what happens with the pre health student after graduation. I wanted to provide a little bit of context and a little bit of resources to you. And for today's talk, I'll primarily be addressing pre med and pre dental parents, but a lot of the support and services are the same. So I wanted to make sure that you knew what the context of my talk were, the parameters. Let's see. All right. So, supporting your pre health senior. I want to also start by congratulating each family represented here today for helping your student to navigate a very unsuspecting and very different summer. Applying to professional school is already a very challenging process, but if you add something like a global pandemic on top of that, you have a lot of changes. I know some of your students had to reschedule MCATs, a lot of them chose or had experiences that were rescheduled or canceled, and we know the stress that was involved with that. And we are thankful and happy that you were able to help your student get to this point and also help to get to this next phase, which is, of course, interviews and acceptances and all of the wonderful things that are preparing them for next steps. For those of you who are not aware of it, but our pre health website has a tab for parents because we know that it takes three layers of support, or it takes three different groups in order to make a successful pre health student. We have students, we have advisors, and we, of course, have the family support and the guardian support. This is on our pre health website. Right now, during your student senior year, we they have expectations to review and follow the different guidelines for their particular discipline. Do practice interviews at our career center. Our career center is fantastic with helping students to get the practice that they need so they can polish up and get ready for that great interview. They also are responsible to turn in their secondaries on time. And also, once they receive or an admissions decision, acceptance denial, wait list, etc., they should schedule a meeting with one of our pre-health advisors so we can help them kind of navigate what the next steps will be. Advisors support and services. We meet with seniors to discuss last minute interview tips, choosing between schools, and planning that gap year. We celebrate with your student and help them provide support when plans change, denials, gap years, including complete changing of career pathways. We are absolutely here to help your student navigate all of that. And parental support, we even have this section for you. Be supportive and let your student lead when seeking support from professors and advisors. Encourage your students throughout the year. We know that you're doing that. Check in with them regularly and motivate them. Interviews happen on a rolling basis, just as an FYI, from summer all the way to late spring. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And also, please celebrate every victory, the dean's list, interview invitations, all of those things. We are in a time where small wins matter, and we want to definitely make sure that you are highlighting all of those great things. Support from the professional schools. And this is what we have been told on our different pre health forums for advisors and professional schools. All interviews are virtual at the moment, and they'll likely to continue to be that way through this application cycle. Schools have made a dedicated effort to be holistic. They have always been that way, but with later than normal MCATs and all and DATs and different standardized testing um, timelines, students have really had to submit their applications a lot sooner than maybe their test scores have been received. So they are looking at students holistically or more holistically, looking at their experiences and their essays. Our pre health advising office did our best to help your student review and edit down and perfect those essays that they submitted on their applications. Uh, Professional schools also have great compassion and empathy for this applying cohort. They know that they have had a lot of bumps in the road, so they are very compassionate with what is happening with them, including how some of the distance learning opportunities and face to face versus virtual platforms are happening nationwide. As an FYI, interviews are still being granted. So if you have a student who has submitted all of their application materials in a timely manner and they still haven't heard yet, please don't worry. This is still the time of year where interviews are being granted and offered. So just tell your student to hang tight and keep getting those great grades because we are still in the middle of our fall semester. And we were also advised that websites are being updated regularly between the professional schools. So if they have updates, including where updates can be sent or any address changes or whatever it may be, their websites, the individual program websites are going to have that. Taking you back a little bit on where your applicant has been, you'll see a little glimpse of what our timeline has kind of walked through. All of your students or most of your students came through this time last year in a meeting with us and all of the applicants who were applying to professional school that year. We got all the way through December where we started to work with them on gathering the materials, letters of recommendation, etc., to prepare them for their professional school application. We also did our mock or committee interview in the spring, and we even had some of them in the summer due to the pandemic and making sure that we could help every student that we possibly can get this important interview and letter. We had applications open and we did all of these different things, and just again to congratulate you and your student on how far we've come and kind of where we are now. If you are a pre-dental parent or pre-dental student watching this lecture, we are so excited at what's happening in about a month and a half from now. It is decision day for our pre-dental students. The beginning of December is when dental families find out the students who have interviewed if they've gotten into their dental school program. So we know, and this is a standard that has happened for the last few decades in terms of having this one or it's not an early decision, but to have a decision day for dental students. So we know that this is happening, and we are excited as we get closer and closer to December 1. Support from the AAMC and the ADEA, those are the overarching um, communities that build our DAT, that build our MCAT, that host our application systems. They also are providing regular updates on Twitter and on their websites. They provide tips and resources on interviewing and technology associated with that, updates on testing. The new MCAT schedule for 2021 recently posted. That doesn't necessarily apply to your group, but just in case your student has to retest, that schedule is up and available, and we sent that out in our monthly newsletter last month. And just as an update for students, customer service lines for each of these application systems are very, very responsive. If you call them, you will get a live person. So if a student has a question, or even if they call the professional school themselves, they are likely to get a person who will be able to answer their question. These are two of the resources that we have found online from the AMC and the ADEA on virtual interviewing for students. And I have a link to that at the end of this presentation if you would like that. Interviews and admissions decisions. Schools and programs will share with students what next steps are, including interview day information and instructions, including where to park, where to arrive, if they are doing some in-person type thing. Specifically this year, they're giving instructions on how to log in. Some schools are doing a pre-interview day where you get to test out your technology, your Zoom link, or whatever different platform that they're using for the virtual interviews. So make sure that your student pays attention to the communications that come about that. Once an acceptance is granted, students will be given updates on getting updated vaccinations, flu shots, different things, TB tests, normal vaccinations, how to send their final transcripts, financial aid, and deposits. All of that comes with the acceptance letter. If a student is waitlisted or denied, they also will receive information on that, and the likely communication method will be via email. Applicant responsibilities. Students should become familiar with the AMC traffic rules or the applicant responsibility information that is on the host website, like the ADEA. Students should be sure to check their email or including their spam or junk folder, so that they don't miss any interview opportunities or invitations or further instructions or clarifications that the schools may have. They are using your Crimson email or whatever email that you used on your application, so you want to make sure that you are very aware of what's in those folders and that you are checking even the spam and the junk folders. Students are encouraged to clean up their social media presence. This is a time when admissions committees are looking at various data points. Each of these, the AMC and the ADEA, both have advice about social media and the applicant. So we encourage our students to look that over. But if you have a conversation with your student, we encourage them to either clean up social media presence or even make their pages private if that's their preference. And as an aside, to make sure that your student has applied for graduation, this is the opportunity for them at this point to get a degree audit from their college registrars, and also make sure that the last classes that they're taking at Alabama in the spring are all of the remaining classes that they need in order to graduate. So that was a little plug there from our registrars. The pre-health advising team. We have appointments right now to help students with their questions, including helping navigate between acceptances, preparing for a growth year, sending updates to centralized application services or programs. Students were assigned this summer a application advisor during their health professions committee interviews. So students already know at this point who they can contact with specific questions. Our advice as advisors, our students should keep doing the activities this school year that they have planned. It can provide additional discussion points for interviews, or also should continue involvement in cases of having to reapply. Students shouldn't worry, again, about not getting interviews until mid or late spring. And even then, some schools will provide interviews for seats late into the spring semester. So if your student ends up getting an interview in the spring semester, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting a waitlist seat, which has always been the rumor. There are plenty of schools that are still interviewing for true seats. Schools like to interview students that they want to have in their applicant or in their class. So they're very intentional about making sure that when they extend interviews that they are for actual seats. Students are encouraged to think critically about their readiness and competitiveness for professional school programs. So that is that. Our advice is also if students have to reapply, our office is here to help them. We do walk through that competitiveness check with them and also assess the best way for them to spend that gap year, be it a master's post-bac program or maybe additional experiences like research or clinical experience, or maybe it's just an opportunity to take a moment to do something completely different before you enter professional school. All of those are welcome ideas from students in terms of how to spend a gap year. These students can help uh, these conversations can happen with us as soon as students are comfortable. We know that students don't want to think about applying or reapplying to medical or dental school right away, but we help them to think about that this is a very competitive process, and we want them to think that even if they put forth their best effort, that they should be ready to reapply next year if needed, which is why we strongly encourage students to continue activities into their senior year. Life after UA. From what has been shared with us from professional schools, they are making every effort to have as many in person instruction options as possible and as safely as possible. They are also navigating this pandemic and making quick adjustments to things just like we are. My last slide is a list of helpful links if you wanted to jot them down. The first one is our Health Professions Advising Office, and that's prehealth.ua.edu. The next two are those interview guides from the slides a few minutes ago that just show students what they can do in those interviews and how they can maximize their success during virtual interviews. And that is all I have.
Thank you so much, Marion. I do have a few follow-up questions. I know you talked a little bit about the gap year and students experiencing the gap year. I know for parents, sometimes that can be stressful, or students not getting into med school immediately or pre-health profession immediately. Can you talk a little bit about if that's normal for them to have a gap year and what that looks like?
From what we are told and from what the data shows, gap years are more and more welcome for professional schools. In my experience as an advisor, and I've been doing this for the past 8 years, students who take gap years are more prepared, they are more mature, and they are more rested than students who often go straight through. There has always been concerns about what happens when students enter the rigorous environment of professional school, which is why a lot of medical, dental, etc. programs welcome the gap year if a student elects to take one. So this is not something that should be a scary thing. This is an opportunity for your student to do something either to enhance or strengthen their resume, or maybe enhance or strengthen themselves and kind of grow into the profession that they're going to be. We know this one thing: your child is going to be a doctor or dentist for the rest of their lives. 1 year will seem like a blink in hindsight. So, when you're looking at or thinking about, or your student is sharing with you that they want to take a gap year or that they may need to take a gap year, our recommendation is, of course, to embrace it and find ways to maximize the things that you can do in that year.
Thank you. And one last question. So, I know that this can be a stressful time for parents and families as well. What is one word of advice that you would give to family members and parents during this stressful time?
Advice. I would say flexibility. Be flexible. This is a word that we are telling our students to be flexible. Professional schools are being flexible, and we're encouraging families to be flexible. This is a year that hasn't looked like any other year that we've had. So, compassion is a part of that flexibility and understanding, and knowing that this is a year that a lot of good things can happen. And some of those things can be unconventional, non traditional, not a part of the original plan. So we encourage you and your families to be flexible.
Thank you so much, Miriam. This has been great information. I think it's very beneficial to our parents who may not have much knowledge about what the pre-health professions look like and applications. And so we thank you and your department for providing us with this information. And we thank you families for tuning in to our webinar Wednesdays. We will have one more coming up next Wednesday. And so we look forward to you all being a part of that. And we thank you so much. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.